All right. We are here on Red Belt Podcast with Michael Bank. How you doing, Michael?
I'm doing fantastic. How about you, Brian?
Doing great. So Michael has been in martial arts for a long time. We met in a business group quite a bit ago, I guess 8 or 9 years ago, something like that. Not sure. Um, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little
Um,
bit about yourself, Michael.
so I got involved in martial arts at 10 years old. Like most of us around our age, the Ninja Turtles got me excited about it as a kid. And I spent years and years begging my mom to get me in. And finally, at about 10 years old, she got me involved. Started off in a Shaolin Kempo system, which was karate, kung fu, some very old school jujitsu, and Tai Chi thing mixed. Got my black belt, was an active competitor for many years. Moved off to college, joined the military, became a military hand-to-hand combat instructor for the U.S. Air Force. Worked with a special forces unit over in Iraq called the Ravens, where I was flying in and out of Iraq. Got a lot of real world experience there. And then after I got out of the military, I opened up a martial arts school in 2006. And ran that for 17 years. I recently sold it to my head instructor and went into early retirement at 40 years old. Definitely had a lot of opportunities to travel around the world. I just got back from Brazil for Master Ricardo Laborio's Coral Belt um, ceremony. I've gotten a chance to go out to Thailand, do some training out there, gotten to do some Krav in Israel. So I've been just very, very blessed to travel the world, train with a lot of the best people, meet lots of awesome people, and have a lot of fun.
Awesome, man. So let's talk a little bit about that because you've a lot of people's retirement plan in martial arts is to die on the mat. And if you want to be in martial arts your whole life, that's cool, and I'm about that. And like as you can see with or as you were saying with your retirement, you're retired, but you're still on the mats, right? But the retirement plan of being obligated to teach forever because you can't exit or save, that I don't love so much. So tell us about setting up systems, taking yourself out and exiting, that sort of
All
thing.
right, so I'll start with just a couple of things that really did motivate me for this thought process. Was a couple years back, my instructor finally retired, and sadly, he passed away 6 months later. He had 6 months where he had the ability to actually go and travel, and he was that type of instructor who was there every day. I don't really remember him ever being gone for more than a couple of days ever. And then I look around in my own town, there's several instructors who are in their 70s and still out teaching class every day. And yeah, I mean, I'm a big proponent in the concept of there's a movement called the FIRE, Financially Independent Retire Early. And within that movement, a lot of people say, hey, I may not retire, but it'd be nice to know that I could, or might be working less hard. You might be able to design the business for a little bit better quality of life. So there's been a lot of fantastic things that I've just been able to figure out along the ways. I found some fantastic mentors to get that way. So, when it comes to saving, investing, I found it's just like with training, there's three main levers that you can pull. You have the amount of time you do it, you have the intensity that you do it, and the frequency that you do it. So just like whether you're training jujitsu, martial arts, anything, you could get really good if you train 8 hours a day every day for a year or two, or if you train, a couple hours a week for many, many years. Either way, you're going to get very, very good. So it's the exact same thing in investing. The best asset you have is your time. If you're able to get going early, you can utilize a lot safer methods. Um, I was very fortunate to have, good financial mentors even when I was young. So, I started investing at 18 years old. Of course, at that point, I wasn't making much money in the military and college, but, I always made a priority to max out my Roth IRA, which is what I usually help most people get initially started with. When I got out of the military and opened up the business, I was also I went ahead and bought my first house at 23 years old, which I utilized the house hacking where I got a couple of roommates, and I had a 3-bedroom house. So I made each of their rent half my mortgage payment. And then I had each of them pay a third of the utilities. So my total cost to live there was 1/3 of the utility payment. So that wasn't too bad. And then that allowed me to start paying a lot of extra money on the house. I actually ended up paying off that house in something crazy like 2 years because of that, as I was growing, building the business. Then continuing through the business, I had the opportunity to buy a 5,000 square foot standalone building at 25 years old. Once again, didn't have a whole lot of money at that point in time. The banks wouldn't touch me, but being that young and without a lot of money to put down, but I was able to negotiate to have an owner finance situation. So ended up buying the building. He only wanted $25,000 down, but he wanted 20 years of fixed payments because he was getting older and he just wanted a set stream of income. So I was able to take out a home equity line of credit on that house that I just paid off to have the money to come up with a down payment for that building, which that building is, now 15 years later, worth about $1 million. Then I had the fortunate opportunity. I ended up meeting a cell phone tower company. I was able to negotiate to put a cell phone tower on the back of my property. And I built in a lease with them that covers my property taxes every year on my building. So now here I am at 40 years old. There's about 5 years of payments left on that building because he did take it away my bill to pay it off early. But that building has about tripled in value. And, my hope is to actually sell that to the instructor who bought my school a couple years ago. So as I was going through, I started learning about other ways to invest using the company. So on top of, having the building, having the Roth IRA, the next thing I found was a simple IRA, which made the most sense. The simple allows you, I want to say it's currently $14,500 a year plus 3% of your W-2 income. You can put into a tax deferred account. So did that for many, many years. Started building up some levels that way. I'd even put my wife on there and started maxing her out as well. At the end of the day, most people in their businesses, the goal in business is to make money, but the point of that money is to actually be able to have a life with it. So for me, I always prioritize, make sure that some of that money was put away into going to my future. When I'm talking with a lot of people who are wanting to do it, I'll talk to business owners who have had martial arts schools or anything for 20, 30 years. I'll say, hey, how much money have you made through your working career? And what's your net worth? How does the comparison of those two numbers make you feel? In life, pretty much everyone is going to make $1 million in your working career. But it's up to you on how quickly you want to make it happen and after you make that $1 million, what do you want to have to show for it? Do you want to have nothing other than, having gone out and partied a lot through your life, or do you want to actually have some net worth and be able to step away and live the life of your dreams? I had a few other big aha moments. I sadly, and I met you right about this time when I had lost a wife to cancer. And I was 35-ish years, 34, 35 years old. And, one of those things you never expect to happen, but that gives you a truly different perspective on life. And, at the end of the day, we have our memories and that's it. So what I, focused on and took out of that whole thing was I wanted to be able to free up my time. Throughout that time, I really designed the business to pull myself out of it, to be able to live more life. I had to take care of her for many years. Fortunately, throughout that, I became an expert in training teams, training staff. And then as we went into all the fun COVID pandemic stuff and we had to shut down our business and that kind of stuff, my current wife and I truly broke down the business and redesigned the business to be attractive to a potential buyer one day. Most of us, I assume it's mostly martial arts junkies on here, and the lifestyle of a martial arts school owner that we're used to, working 6 days a week, we're out late at night, that kind of stuff. Well, that's a hard sale to convince someone that is an attractive purchase offer. So we actually started looking at how can we make this business the type of business that is going to attract amazing talent, as well as make it that someone's going to want to buy it one day, especially, if we're, finding someone who is, a parent, that kind of stuff. They don't want to think about a life where they're never going to see their kids except for Sundays. So we, redesigned our business model that we completely closed 4 weeks a year. We designed it that it was a 4-day work week, a Monday through Thursday work week for the head instructor, and everything that was on Fridays or Saturdays could be handled by part-time employees. We set up health insurance for our staff. We set up, using the simple IRA, we set up retirement funds for our staff. And all of a sudden, we started getting much better type of talent that wanted to work for us because we were a quote unquote real job. And what we found is as we were designing the studio that way, it also improved our lives. That we were able to take long weekends every weekend. We were able to get away a whole lot more, which is, at the end of the day, what's important in life for us.
Yep. So question on this. So a lot of people I've talked to have the vision of exit, but don't sell. In other words, take yourself out and keep getting a certain amount of profit, but don't sell it, right? Why do you think sell it is better, or do you think it's either equivalent? Like, what's your opinion on that?
So, I was pretty much, for the most part, out of my business for many, many years, but I still went to bed thinking about it every single night. I still woke up every morning thinking about it every night. I was still, fielding tons of phone calls every day, I was still watching numbers every day like a hawk. So, I really didn't feel like, even though I wasn't physically there, I still felt like it took up a lot of brain space in my mind. And you never know what's going to happen. You never know when you're going to lose a key employee. You never know when you're going to, you know, just have any issues. You never know if there's going to be some, be a legal issue that happens in your school. There's always something going on that, in your mind could completely throw you back in, could add a lot of stress to you. So I wanted to remove that off my plate. And, if that's something that you're okay with that stress and you need the money from it, that's great. For me, I just wanted to clear up that mental space for my own mind. Now with selling the business, I do still own the building. I'm leasing the building, so I do still get income that way to the new owner. And as I said earlier, my hope is to sell him the building in a couple of years as well, once he gets a little bit more established and his feet under him, so I don't even have the landlording responsibilities anymore.
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. To me, the brain space sort of thing is something that we sometimes we don't think, especially in the earlier business careers, about how much that kind of matters. But yeah, essentially, you're willing to take less money if you don't have to think about it, and the risk is gone. So your retirement plan isn't that you've set up this business and you're going to live off the revenue. Your retirement plan is you've taken money out of the business, invested it, and then got some money during the exit, and are conventionally retired.
Exactly. Yes. I have, fortunately, the instructor who I found was able to secure financing on his own and was able to buy me out in one check. So, the only level of risk I have is that risk as a landlord of if for some chance he fails at some point in that, but I'll still have a building at that point in time that's worth plenty of money that I could always turn around, sell, or turn around and find a new renter for.
How do you calculate what a fair price to sell your gym is?
So that's probably the most common call I have gotten the past 5 months since everyone found out I sold the business. So there's a lot of ways to look at it. For me, there's a certain financial number that I wanted to get to. Most people never think about what their financial independence number is. I knew what my number was, and when started getting close, I started realizing that, hey, I could, if I could sell the school for a certain amount, it would put me right at that number. So, I've got a good buddy who was a bank manager. I actually sat down with him and he showed me all the calculations for getting the SBA loans, what all they're going to be looking for, that type of stuff. Although I knew that this guy would be able to come up with his own financing, I wanted to make sure that it fell within all reasonable standards, which that's usually about 2 to 3 times your your take home income from the business. But for me, it's
In other
true.
words, profit, not gross. 2 to 3
Correct.
times profit, annual profit.
Yep.
Okay.
But for me, it was truly, I figured out what number would get me to where I wanted to be. And I knew that was a number that I could convince him would make sense for him, and we went for it. So that for me, that was far more important to get where I wanted need to be than to try and, if I wanted to try and up that number, well, there's other potential objections that could come up, that type of stuff. It was a number I knew that I could easily convince him on. I could easily sell it to him on. I knew he had access to get it. And I was ready to be done. So We did a 9 month, so we started planning this about 9 months before the sale. Of course, did not let any students know that. The only people that knew were my accountant, my lawyer, and a couple other professionals who I just needed information from for specifics, like a realtor who did some appraisals for proper in the building, that type of stuff. But we spent 9 months trying to plan every detail of the sale to make sure that no balls got dropped. Over that 9 month period, he took more and more of the lead role for everything in the school. We had all the parents get used to going to him for everything, not myself or my wife. So it was a very, very smooth, natural transition. We made the big announcement at the final belt test in December. And we simply just bowed out. We still pop back in for black belt testing and occasional events, and I'm still always happy to help if he needs help. And I'm helping to coach him and that type of stuff as well. But it's just nice that, for the first time after 17 years of owning a business, that I don't go to bed being worried about something in the school. I don't wake up worried about it. It's the hardest thing for me is not keep my phone on me at all times. I'm purposefully leaving my phone somewhere for a couple hours because I'm so used to being attached to the hip all the time. Worry about, well, what if something ever goes wrong?
Right. Yeah. So most people that listen to this are probably business owners, and that most of us got married to our phone pretty much.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's always that worry that what has exploded. If you finally did take your quote unquote relaxing week away and whatever, is there going to be a crater back there at your school when you go back? What's going on? Yeah. So um, I get that for sure. Um, and
Yeah.
like you said, you can still be connected to the business in some non-ownership way, the school.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure he will still let me go in and volunteer to teach a class if I ever want to. I still have taught a couple seminars at friend schools as I'm traveling around. But when I had the business, although I was somewhat disconnected and I did travel a lot, I still felt like that, the 4 or 5 days before I left for a trip, I was crazy busy trying to make sure every possible thing's taken care of. And when I got back, I spent the first 2 or 3 days looking for anything that could have gone wrong while I was gone. So yeah, so now it's just nice to be able to go on a trip and not have to be concerned. As long as I know that my dogs are taken care of, I can travel the world freely.
So let's go back to when you were saying that you were getting ready to restructure to the gym to be sellable. And you talked about a couple different things, like the benefit plans and the work hours and making it inviting. So you had in your mind, you for sure wanted to sell to a head instructor, not like an investor. And so I get that. So now you know who would want to buy it. Um, but so other than that, in terms of maybe this was already set up by that point, but you already had a head instructor. You were already kind of out. You just had the stress. So how do you go about getting to the out to that point? What sort of roles do you assign? How do you go about that? I know you said you were still doing stuff before and after, so you were doing a lot of things still.
Yeah, so I had delegated everything that was time sensitive. So, I had all the classes were taken care of, all the events were taken care of, but I was still doing a lot of the marketing. I was still doing accounting, bookkeeping, reviewing numbers every week, running staff meetings, that type of stuff. So, still always keep my pulse on it. Yeah, I mean, letting go of your baby is one of the hardest things to do. I see people, we have a local school owner here in town that I think yesterday was his 49th year anniversary in business. But over 49 years, I think there's only been 4 or 5 years that he's let someone else actually take the reins of his business. And just seeing the lifestyle that he has with that, although he says he loves it, I also saw in those years that he had that head instructor that he didn't have to be there every day, and saw that he enjoyed actually being able to go out to dinner with his wife every now and then, before 9 p.m. So what I did, as we started having my head instructor get ready to become a business owner, just every month I would start giving him a little bit larger percentage of the responsibilities of things that I was still doing on the back end, whether it be setting up the events and pages, building out the calendar for the next year, um, had him start taking over doing intros and upgrade conferences, had him take over running belt tests because I was still helping to run a lot of the belt testings. So we just kind of really shifted it to him being the man for everything, and taking away the whole, oh, well, we need to ask Mike for everything.
Yeah,
People get
I
used to that same person, but people also get used to everything else very quickly.
right. Yeah, I've for a long time ago, I'm a business owner still at both Red Belt Software, my software company, and 10th Planet Beaumont, my school. But at my school right now, we've been a long time at a point where people are used to going to somebody else for stuff. And I did that by basically redirecting them to that person every time that I was asking. Eventually, people got the message. And I even tried not to introduce myself as the business owner. Sometimes other people will still introduce me that way, but like I try to be head instructor or whatever, not that. And so I've kind of done. I was away. I was out of country for 4.5 months for my software company recently, um, and the school stayed about the same, right? So um, I've done a little bit of what you're talking about. I'm definitely. I don't have them in my head that I want to sell it right now, but like being able to have it where I could, it is a nice idea. Um, and I think most people could never sell it because you can't sell a job. So that's there has to be something there of value other than the job, because usually in martial arts it isn't even that high paying a job. So
Mhm.
why would they pay you to take over your job? So if the business actually makes a profit, if people work there, if it's a real business, then you could exit. So
Yeah.
um
So one of the interesting other kind of aha moments. So I did a Tony Robbins business consulting for several years. The very first phone call I had with a coach, which I almost quit after his call because he pissed me off with it, but it grew on me over time, was one of the very first questions he ever asked me was, "What's the exit plan for your business?" And I was still the head instructor. I was still doing everything. And he made me mad. I'm like, what do you mean? What's my exit plan? This is what I've chosen to do for my life. This is what I want to do. And, he explained to me that, that's one of the most important parts of a business plan is having an exit strategy. It might not be, you may not never use it, but by thinking about your business that way, it's going to help you treat it more like a real business. It's going to change the way you think. Yeah, as you said, most, instructors don't make a lot of money, but if a martial arts business is being run with the proper systems, you can make really good money. And I was fortunate to make a great income for about 14 of my 17 years in business. It took me a couple of years to get everything figured out, but I didn't flaunt I did well for myself. They knew I lived in a nice house and I had the opportunity to travel and had the opportunity to do a lot of things. So I always wanted to implant that prospect in the people, just like as a school owner, you're always looking for potential staff, you're looking at who could become the next, you always have your eyes open, after, for me, I always started thinking about, hey, who could I sell this to one day if I ever need to step away? And going through the cancer scare with my wife definitely helped me to really make that much more of a priority of, hey, if if something like this were to happen, I had to truly step away. I want to see the business continue to be there without me.
yep. Yep. Makes sense to me. I've actually I haven't done any business consulting with Tony Robbins, but like at there was an event that he spoke at. It was a ClickFunnels Funnel Hackers Live event, and he brought several people on stage, and he asked them like, "Hey, how much would you sell your business for? What's your extra strategy?" And most of them like, "I don't want to sell it." And then he's like, "Hey, well, you're not an entrepreneur, because entrepreneurs build a business, grow it, and sell it and whatever." Because these people are like, "Oh yeah, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm this," and it's like, well, you're not, because if you're an entrepreneur, you build a business and you have a plan to sell it. You know what you want to sell it for. Um, you have a plan to do that. So yeah, I've also heard that. And the person that he was selling it was also a little bit upset in front of how many ever thousands of people that was. So I can picture you because I've seen it before. I got to see it on stage. So I can picture you in a more private setting, only with a coach, not with him directly, having the same thing and being like, what? So because
Yeah,
yeah.
so so I've later on I got a chance to actually go through his business mastery course. Ever since COVID, he's been doing his stuff virtually. So we've been able to get a group of people together to go in on these courses that are $6,000, $8,000, $10,000. So I want to say business mastery, the first level of it was $10,000. So we got a group of entrepreneurs together. We went to a friend's house who had a big house up in Charlotte, and we went through the whole uh, process with it. So he teaches that there's three different types of business owners. You have the artist, you have the manager, and you have the entrepreneur. So the artist is what most of martial arts school owners are. They're the ones that love being the face. They love being the one out there doing the job, and that doesn't mean, so artist doesn't necessarily mean martial artist. It could be the person who likes fixing, changing tires on a car. It could be the person who likes doing whatever. So that is the majority of business owners. And that's the person that also owns their job is a downside side of it too, if you take it into the Robert Kiyosaki mindset. Then you have the manager, which is someone who likes to be the person pulling all the strings and make sure everything gets done and working with people and that type of stuff. But the big key of being the actual entrepreneur is someone who is willing to, if the right price comes along, is willing to just completely give it away. So when I know we probably have a ton of the same friends on Facebook, and I laugh when I see everyone description serial entrepreneur and this kind of stuff, but they're not entrepreneurs at all. They're complete artists.
Mhm.
Or if you're a fan of Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Poor Dad type series, he breaks down the four quadrants of business. So he has the the employee, you have the person, well, the four types of people. You have the employee who works for a paycheck. You have the small business owner, which is someone who, if you take 2 weeks off from your job, you lose 2 weeks worth of income. You have the big business owner, which is someone who, if you step away from your business, this business will still either maintain or grow. And then you have the investor, someone who doesn't work for their money. And he spends all of his time and concept teaching people to get over to the right side of the quadrant, which was the big business owner or the investor. And that was a book that I want to say I discovered when I was like 10 years old. And I've been to several of his big weekend long seminars, that type of thing too. And yeah, definitely always wanted to look at, hey, I want to get paid whether I work or not. I want to live life. I don't want to be the person having to do everything for all my life.
And so would you say a big piece of this is saving? So taking your profit, like profit first style or something like that, getting putting the profit away, taking it out of your business one, and then not buying a new fancy thing with it immediately and being able to buy assets, not liabilities, invest, things like that. What's your
Yeah,
thought?
yeah. So retirement isn't an age; it's a financial number. And as I said earlier, most people never figure out that number. I also, there's actually, if you look at if your lifestyle, and I've taught this in a couple of seminars, that how long it takes to retire is a function of what percentage of your income you live off of versus you invest. So, if you, so say if you decide I'm going to invest 10% of what I make, well, it's going to take 10 months or 9 months to save 1 month's worth of uh, living expenses. So let's say you spend $10,000 a month, you make $10,000 a month after tax. You spend 9,000, you save 1,000. So it's going to take you 9 months to save up 1 month's worth of savings, or it's going to take you 9 years, save 1 year's worth of savings. That's going to take a very, very long time. When you start looking at it that way, you start playing with the numbers and you start adding in compound interest. If you can get to saving 50% of your income, you'll learn that you can retire in something like 10 years, which I've got charts that I could send you with a lot of this information as well, that I've done all the math and I've got spreadsheets that'll do all this for you. But when you start thinking about it that way, hey, if I'm willing to, really live below my means for 10 years, I never have to work again. That sounds a whole lot better and a lot more, I can actually see a 10-year goal in my mind versus, people never start investing because they're like, oh, well, they can't imagine something in 40 years.
Right. And so this works even if you're an employee. This works no matter what.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So this really isn't just business owners should know it. They should especially know it because employees may have some sort of retirement plan through their job. If you own a martial arts school, unless you are the one making the plan, who do you expect to give it to you? So it's more important for school owners, I think, because you can't rely on someone else to do it. But this works for everybody because it's not just selling a school. It's not anything like that. It's making financial decisions that make sense, right?
Yep, and even if you at that point you still want to work or anything like that, it changes the quality of your life. So let's say for an employee, if you know you've got a couple years worth of savings and put away, if your boss is a pain in the butt, you're not afraid to get fired. You're gonna do what you have to do for yourself, for your family. You're not only going to be there just because you need that paycheck and you're afraid of what's going to happen if you're not going to do it. Now, on the business owner, the entrepreneur side, you find that you make better decisions and you make those decisions from a better place when you are not worried about how you're going to pay rent next month. So, as we grew, we went from starting at 3 years old to 4 years old, then up to 5 years old. So we stopped taking the little kids, which made a lot less headaches. We went from that 6-day work week down that 4-day work week. We got less concerned about if a decision makes someone mad that they're going to leave. We look at the numbers in the business, every about 8 to 9 months, 50% of your business is going to turn over. If you look at the national attrition averages of about 5 to 6%, every 18 months, 90% of your students are going to turn over. I mean, these are based on the national averages in the martial arts industry that, once you get more successful, you change your mindset that you're not going to make a decision that's going to be the best one for your business long term for someone who's about to quit you anyways.
Right. It's thinking long term is easier when short term is taken care of. When you're,
exactly.
It's hard to think about where you're going to retire in X amount of years if you don't know where you're going to live next month.
Yep, exactly.
So yeah, that makes sense. And it sometimes you see a lot of these business owners in this business, but really most of them kind of going in circles, very hamster wheelie, because everything's putting out fires, everything's short term, so everything's just making they're in the business, not outside of it, and everything's making sure we make numbers for this month. And you can't have a long-term vision and working towards that because all the energy is going to the short term. So how do you get out of that though? Like how do you change that? What's the
So actually I taught a seminar recently on the the different numbers that you need to know. So for financial success. So once like similar to what Dave Ramsey teaches, getting the basic emergency fund. So the first number that I tell people to focus on is getting that one expenses put away. Once you have 1 month's worth of living expenses put away, you're now no longer concerned if you need a new tire on your car, if you got to move last minute, things like that. You have at least enough money put away to handle 95% of emergencies that could come up. So, look at how much it takes you to live 1 month to get that number first. That's going to start getting your mindset to start changing. Then to get that 3 to 6 month emergency fund, based on your risk tolerance level. Once you have 3 months to 6 months of income put away, you've got enough money that there's almost nothing that could happen to you that you can't just write a check and handle. You've got enough money, you can buy a new car cash tomorrow if you need to. You've got enough money that if you were to lose your job, you're good for a couple months. And you're going to stop being stressed at that point in time. Once you get beyond that point, now is when you start having enough money that you can really start investing. So then the next goal is to get to that 1 year living expenses saved. That's when you've got enough money that a good bit of that money is going into your investment portfolio. You're starting to see the compound interest start working. It's pretty slow and boring at the beginning, but after many years of it, it gets really sexy. Then the next big milestone is once you get 5 years of living expenses put away, you're now at a very financially comfortable level. You're actually seeing some growth truly start happening in your investment portfolio. You can start, You can start enjoying life a little bit more. You might, that's a point where you actually start seeing the compounding interest start really moving the needle up a little bit faster than you're even putting money away. Then the next number is once you get to 10 years worth of living expenses saved, that's when you're going to start seeing a lot of years your investments are going to make more money than you do from your job. At that point in time, once again, you can put away a little bit less. You can a lot of people call it level coasting financial independence, where all you got to do is just kind of bide out your time and just let the interest do the work for you. Then the final stage is once you get to 25 times your living expenses. That's going to be the golden ticket number where you can exit with like a 99 point something % chance of success as long as you don't go stupid. At that point you can take out money from your investments, whether the market's up or down, and still have plenty of money to live comfortably through the rest of your days. And then what a lot of people don't think about as they go into that is, as you're going through this process, once you get your house paid off, you're going to spend less, your housing expenses goes way down. As you get in this mindset, you notice you're going to start buying cars less often. I've noticed a lot of times over the years, my staff has all driven nicer, more expensive cars than me. Not that I drove a hoopty or jalopy or whatever, but for me, driving the nicest, fanciest car wasn't that important. I'd much rather be putting that car payment away into an investment to get my freedom. Then as I was working my way towards this, I did stuff. I put solar panels on my house, so I pretty much never have a power bill anymore. You start looking at ways where you're going to lower your cost living when you're not running the business. The first year or two, you're probably going to spend a lot of money when you retire, but after that, there's something called the retirement smile, where your expenses tend to actually go down significantly after you've gone through that first big round of trips and you fixed up everything around the house that's been bugging you for years, which I'm mid that process right now. So this year is definitely expensive and all that, but I know that's a short term thing. But once you finally get to the point where you're out of that, you're going to find, hey, you've got about 5 to 10 things in your life that you really enjoy, and most of them don't cost that much money. My big vice is travel. I'll spend a lot more money for travel than most anything else in my life, but I'm fortunate I've got friends all over the country and all over the world. So even with friends, I can do it on a pretty decent budget and still live the life I want to live.
Yeah, so that sounds good. And we're super on the same page with a lot of that. I've always had probably way worse cars than you. I've like the worst car in my staff all the time, like, because we have a very similar mindset like that. I did talk to someone recently that someone they knew though was like so retirement mindseted that like their girlfriend slash fiance they didn't want them to have energy drinks because it's that $3 each time could have went into a retirement fund, and they didn't want to this and this, and it's like now you're like Mr. Scrooge. Like, is there a way to balance this? Like,
Yeah,
is there like
So I actually coached a friend on this a couple years ago that his wife is the most meticulous person. I've been in the car with him, and she's called, "What'd you spend $3 for at the store?" And so for things like that, you have to have a little bit of blow up money in your income. So what I recommended for him and his wife was that they actually took a certain amount of cash out every month, and they use that cash for the stupid stuff. So it would always still stay within the budget that, hey, this is the money that does not need to be qualified for, accounted for, that kind of stuff. So, for him, when we went through the numbers, he just wanted like $100 a month to be able to, pick up a Coke at, this guy's actually a lawyer and his wife is very successful too, but she's just of that mindset of watching every dollar. So we actually had to come up with a plan of, hey, you're going to pull out $100 every month. Now hopefully it's more, but, and, hey, that's just your stupid stuff money.
yeah, because it's like that brought up the question, like, what's the point of doing all this to increase your lifestyle if you're gonna suffer like forever? You're gonna like you're gonna not even you can't have an energy drink. Your might
And going through that, you can look at, hey, I'm going to buy your energy drinks from Sam's for half the price than you get it from the gas station.
Yep.
Let's get you a good Yeti cooler that'll keep it cold in your car for a week. There's lots of things you can do to still, do your bad stuff on the budget. But yeah, you've got to have, you got to have money. Money is to be spent. It's to be enjoyed. It's to be given to help other people. It's to be invested. So, I mean, all the whole time while I've been doing this, I've still always given money to a couple different charities, given some money to my church. For me, I'm Jewish, so it's my synagogue. I've always made sure to those areas. Book I've ever read has a chapter about tithing, giving of some sort. And they say, hey, if you hold your money with a tight fist, no one might be able to take your money, but you can't receive money either. So sometimes you got to be willing to open up that hand. You got to be willing to give out a little bit. But I've also found that, I've never regretted any donation I've ever made to help people out. I've found that, the universe later on.
Yeah, I'm also of the opinion, one of the, if you're watching this and you're like, okay, this episode has mainly been about like saving and finance and whatever, and it's like, hey, I just want to do and give and whatever. I will say that the position of giving needs to come from the position of security and having. And it's like, so if someone comes for me to help, and that was one of the things that really drove me to be successful, or like I've had students move away that I wanted to employ, but I couldn't do it. And like, or people I wanted to help or things like that. And you have to be in a position to be able to do that. So I do think you got to consolidate the two. It's like, hey, the Mr. Scrooge approach, I think, is pointless. Like, it's like because he's not just greedy. If you remember the story, he's not just greedy, not wanting to give to others. His house is cold too. Mm-hmm. He's shivering in there too. He's in the workplace. He's shivering. His house is cold and dark. He won't spend on himself either. He lives a miserable life with his money for the sake of having it. But so I don't think that's the answer. What?
Yeah, you've got to enjoy it.
Yeah. So it's like the his dirt poor starving employees were living a better, happier lives than him because they would spend a little bit more. He had all the money. He was the richest guy in town, I think he was supposed to be, and he wouldn't put one coal in the furnace. The poor people would put a couple in there, keep them and their family warm. It's like, so I don't think that's it. So if you're hearing this, don't think that either one of us are telling you that that you can't have that. Just like, also, especially at the beginning, I see all these posts on the internet that they're basically against savings. Because there's something to of the nature of skipped 2 or 3 Starbucks this month. If I only do that 7 million more times, I'll be almost where Elon Musk is, or something. Like, if I only do that for 70 more million years, or something like that. And I do think they're missing the point on the way that wealth compounds and builds, and how important that is at the beginning. That me founding my other company was mainly based on the point that I saved most of my money from the first one. People talk about, oh, Elon Musk isn't self-made because he had 100K access. Supposedly, I don't know if this is true or not, from family or what. It's like 100K, you could save that yourself. Like,
yeah, well, so about $13 a day in miscellaneous savings would be $5,000 a year. So I do see, people who tend to be in the lower income class are the people that stop and get a drink at the gas station more often, where that's going to be the most expensive place to do it. So I would say, hey, if you like those drinks, spend $30, buy a decent cooler, and buy them from the grocery store when they're on sale. You can still do what you want to do, but that way you're spending 50 cents a drink versus spending $3 a drink every day.
Yeah, it's there's a diet and nutrition concept I've heard referred to as the eat this, not that, right? And this seems like the financial version of Okay. So the whole eat this, not that, it's like, hey, still have what you want, but like, hey, I want to sweet this. Like, hey, maybe this one that I also like basically just as much is kind of equivalent, just less calories. This is like, hey, I also get the thing, but like maybe execute this other way. Maybe in both cases, doing neither is the best one, but like if we gonna do one, there's a lot better way to do it. And I agree with that for sure. Is that basically what you're saying?
Yeah, so I mean, so we have to, it's a tough life that we have to determine of, we have to live life that if I were to die tomorrow, I'm going to be happy lived. But I also have to plan, well, what if I live to 100? So we have to find that happy medium where you still get to do a lot of what you like to do that you never regret not living your life, but you also plan far enough for just living a day.
Yeah, that's the art form. And would you say that that's just something people have to discover themselves? They have to decide that on their own?
Yeah, they have to, figure out exactly where they want to be. And, most people never take the time to do goals. People spend significantly more time planning a single vacation than they will the rest of their lives. You know, I've had some amazing weekends where I've sat down with other very successful friends, and we've spent the entire weekend discussing, planning, writing out, diagramming what we want our lives look like, what kind of goals we want to have, what bucket list items we want to look like in 1 year, 5 year, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And the better, the clearer that vision you have, the easier it is to get there.
So I happen to know the approximate cost of a lot of the different masterminds and coaching groups that you've listed here. You dropped a couple of numbers, but I know some of them, and most of them. You and I were also in at least one of them together that I met you originally in, and some of the viewers may not know. But how do you reconcile um, the idea that okay, we're saving, right? And the mindset is saving, 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 but paying really large amounts of money just to be able to talk to somebody, right? And because it's like, oh, that information is available on the internet. Oh, I could go get that for free. Oh, they're not like, how do you reconcile? Because I do think a lot of people get trapped in that and are super stuck because they won't let go of the money. But at the same time, it is technically a lot of money because most of those are large amounts of money, especially for a small business owner, significant investments, more than your house note in some cases.
Mhm. So I mean, I was terrified when I signed up for my first consulting group, and at that point in time, 14 years ago, of yeah, my school was doing 12, 13,000 a month, and to sign up for a month coaching program mess out of me, and I was looking for every reason not to sign up, honestly. But when you sign up for something like this, you're buying time. So, I've been in business for 3 years, and over those 3 years, I built a school from like 9,000 a month to 12,000 to 13 to 14,000 a month. For the first year of biz coaching, my business was doing 27,000 a month. The next year, I got it up to 36,000 a month. So I was buying time. Although yes, there is a zillion free resources. I'm sure a lot of the cockamamie Facebook groups, and you see some advice is really good, some advice is really bad. I've had fun pissing people off a few times to say, hey, when you answer this question, put how many students you have and how much your school gross is. And if you want to get a Facebook group mad, post something like that. But at the end of the day, you want advice from someone who's doing things well. Yeah, you could look up how to build a car online. But if you look up a little bit from Ferrari, a little bit from Ford, a little bit from Kia, a little bit from Hyundai, a little bit from Maserati, you're not going to build a better car. Any of the mastermind groups is going to teach you the system that they have found to get you to a certain level of success as fast as possible. When I talk to people who are looking for a martial arts instructor or for a business coach, I say, look at someone who you feel like you are comfortable with being a role model for you. How does this person, when I was looking for a business coach, I wanted to find someone who had a successful business, but also went out and enjoyed life, that they weren't just married to their business, that they had a great relationship with their husband or wife, with their families, that kind of stuff. Because I've seen people successful in business, but every other area of their life. was struggling. So I would say figure out what areas of your life are important for you to be around. You know, if you're a religious person, you want to find someone who has similar religious convictions to you and use that mindset. Find someone who has that. You know, if, you know, determine what's important to you. But if you know, you're not going to figure out something faster on your own than finding someone who has actually done it and mimicking what they do. That's going to get you your success levels exponentially faster. You know, if you want to, you know, they say if you hang out with 5 smokers, you become the 6th. You hang out with 5 fat people, you become the 6th. You hang out with 5 fitness people, you become the 6th. You hang out with 5 millionaires, you become the 6th. So the mastermind group, if I was the smallest person in it, if I was the least successful person in the room, I knew that I was in the right room because I knew that that room was going to build me up.
Yeah, I did that with when I joined that the same program we met in. I was like, I didn't have, I believe it was $500 a month at that time. And I put it on a credit card because I didn't have $500. But by the time it was due, I mean, I had it because and I think I got the most out of it of everybody there because I took the most action because I had to the most. And so I do think there's something to you know, investing and spending. So that brings me to another question. Like, so not just so we talked about this with the virtues individually of coaching, but many investments have for your business have virtues. So if you think about for your business, I'm pretty sure that like but you had your business, you had consultings, you had business software, you had tools, you had things like that. So you had all the things. You could have got leaner, but you got all the things because they buy time. They got like you think they're worth it as an investment. But in addition to that, what do you think about like not essential things? We're gonna like refresh these bags that don't have to be necessarily. We're gonna add new little things to the gym. I'm gonna buy a dehumidifier to make it smell a little bit like constant improvements. How do you feel about that? Is that spending worth it?
Oh, yeah. So always, so within my business, I would once a year do a renovation or massive improvement on my building because your customers want to see that the money's being reinvested back into the business. But you could also come up with ideas to really help the stuff out. So yeah, like refreshing your equipment. You know, I laugh my butt off at the Century page when people are like, "I've had this Wave Master for only 8 years and it busted. How could this happen? What's the quality?" What? So for us, we would do a holiday sale every year, and we would sell every single piece of equipment and I'd sell it my replacement cost. So at the end of the day, I got new fresh gear every single year in my school. And then for someone who would be, you know, that gear may not have lasted one more year in my school with 250 students using it every week, but it's going to last someone at home 5, 10 years, no problem. And then I'd give them hints to make it last longer. You know, if they buy the Wave Master from me, I'd tell them about either putting the base gel in it so it would last longer or things like that. But I'd help people get something that they would want and use a lot cheaper than they could because I'd sell it to them for my wholesale price instead of the normal retail price. So I'd put the difference on it. Say, hey, you're saving $200 to buy this from me here. That's only a year old and used here versus here's going to be the full cost of it. But, you know, also every year I would, you know, one year I'd upgrade the seating area and chairs. One year I'd do the bathroom. One year I changed the mat out. One year I put a new floor in. One year I built a new custom desk. One year we completely renovated the back room. One year we renovated the office. So yeah, just constantly every year I wanted anyone who had been coming to say, wow, this place has been improving. I loved when people from other schools would visit my school and just see them go bright-eyed to be like, wow, this is a martial arts school. It doesn't smell like a martial arts school. It doesn't, so yeah, we had the ozone machines. I made sure I replaced the HVAC units before they broke because I wanted better ones. We put some mini splits in there to help dehumidify a little bit better. We put in false ceilings in the back rooms, which helped keep it colder, put additional insulation. During COVID, we installed the UV lights inside the HVAC system to, clean the air as we were doing it. And we had the ozone technology already, and blew my mind that schools couldn't figure this stuff out when public schools couldn't figure this stuff out when martial arts schools could. We could just take action and do whatever it needed to make it better. And my mindset is always, how can I avoid every possible headache there is? Yeah, I mean, I get the paint touched up every year or two. And, just make it look like there's never anything that you never see aging on it. I remember I was up at say it was it was one of the Ivy League schools up in Raleigh, and they were redoing their chapel, and they were explaining that the goal of redoing it was to make it look like nothing had been done, but they were doing all the preventive maintenance to make sure that that it never looked bad. If you touch up the siding on your house every year, it never is going to pop and see a huge difference, but it's also never going to look old. Your wood's never going to rot. You do your HVAC maintenance twice a year on your house, your business, you're almost never going to have problems. So just staying ahead of stuff. When I was selling the business, and with the new owner releasing the building, I fixed everything I could think of that was going to need to be fixed within 5 or 6 years before I sold it to him. Just so that way I didn't have to worry about those things as a landlord, knowing that as the owner, I would pay better attention to these things than he would.
Right. Yeah. So, in other words, despite the savings mindset, where the duality is that we're both being super giving and saving. So we're basically both putting more in to the business than the average school and saving more, is the idea. Because I
so
got the same idea there, for that, is that, yeah, the coaching and the software and the tools and the employees, but beyond that, even the extras that you pour back into the business and the business pours back into you. You never pour back in the business and then you go to a consulting group and ask, it's like, I don't know why it's kind of going down.
Yeah, I mean, I go in the martial arts schools all the time, and I see like the colors of the lights are different as they're changing out lights. You see the mold mildew spots on ceiling tiles. You got to be completely obsessive compulsive about that type of stuff if you're going to be demanding $200 a month for your classes. Especially in a kids-based program, that those moms are coming in with almost antennas up, trying to decide if you're worthwhile. Is that bathroom cleaned every single day for those people, or is it disgusting? That's those types of things are the things. Is there cobwebs in the corner, or is it nice and clean? If you want to command a professional price, you have to do it. Is a Lexus that much nicer than the high-end Toyota? Well, depends on your perceived value, right?
Enough people to keep them in business think so.
Yep.
So, yeah, and I think that's a valid point in terms of, I have people ask me a lot of times, oh, should I go up on price? And some people are like, just blanketly, yes, based on X number, but I think there's a lot to consider there. And there's a reason why your mentor or whatever could tell you, hey, I charge this much and we go up on price and whatever, and they can be successful at it and you could do it and struggle. Is if your place looks like junk, then something about it feels different to the customer. I've had customers several times, and I don't think it's an issue, but I've had them come in and they don't know what the price is yet. And they haven't talked to us about. I've just had, this is more than one person. I remember having they're all like on the phone to their life, like, oh, how much is it? And we're like, well, I haven't asked yet, honey, but like, it's gonna be expensive because you should see this place. Because so to me, that's a compliment. And at least they're ready for it, because if the place was trash, they wouldn't be emotionally ready for it, right? If everything was just great, they've been into other places, whatever, like from. Even I make jokes about this, but I'll spend money on a nice trash can in front instead of a stupid one, right? Like the trash can should be nice. Like everything should be nice. And if they can't find anything that's not nice, I don't need wall mats in my school. I don't use it that much, but everything is wall matted with custom logos too. And like just everything's over the top. So when you want to charge more money, when they can visually see it, people are like, oh, well, I have so many world championships. Well, your customer, one, may not care, but two, can't really tell. They can't, if you take BJJ, a normal person can't tell the difference between a blue belt and a black belt. Both of them can crush them, so it doesn't really matter. So now it may matter, but like to them as a prospective customer signing up, that's not what they're going to be used to determine anything. They know customer service, they know cleanliness, they know quality of the facility, they know everything, every sense, sight, touch, smell,
Yeah,
right?
they know if that's fresh paint or if that's 20-year-old paint. They know if that bathroom's clean. Yeah, I'm just like you. Yeah, I've got expensive trash cans. I've got, for us, we're mainly a kid's school. I've got the doorknobs even on the bathroom doors that it's impossible for a kid to lock the door and shut the door that no one can get in there. It's, having the good Swain style mats, for us, we had bamboo floors going up to the mats with a nice smooth transition. You know, we would Swiffer the bathrooms about an hour or two before parents started coming in every day, so the bathrooms would always smell nice and fresh. We had the ozone machine, which always kind of put out that almost it was almost chlorine smell, but it was as a smell that everyone knew was clean, not a funky kid smell.
So would you, if somebody is hearing this and thinking, I should maybe pour some money back into my school, what's like first things you would do if you were like consulting for or taking over a school that like hasn't done any reinvesting in like the last 5 years, and you got a little bit of money to reinvest? What?
I'd start off very, very cheap. But yeah, is the paint good? Have you redone the floorboards? A fresh coat of paint can make a massive difference. Do you have crappy metal folding chairs, or have you upgraded to at least the Lifetime nice black ones? Like the black Lifetime looks a lot cleaner than the white Lifetime chairs because the white ones start getting the stains on them. You go to the black ones, they look nice and clean. If that toilet seat's old, even if you can't afford a new toilet, put a new seat on the toilet. Is the sink nice? Is there good lighting in there? Is the exhaust fan in the bathroom 20 years old and caked in dust? Is all the lighting, the same color? Have you swapped it to LED, which is going to save you money? I remember, when I switched from the T12s to the T8s a long time ago, it knocked $100 off my power bill. Then I went from the T8s to the LEDs, that knocked another $100 a month off the light bills. And a lot of times
A
there's
month?
Yep.
That's a lot.
Yeah, a lot of times there's grant monies through your local power company that'll help you pay for this type of stuff. Bring in someone that's never been in your school. I'll be honest with you on how does it smell. Getting an ozone machine or some sort of, in Miami, those areas, they have those little custom scent things that they have in their schools. Check every corner for cobwebs. How often do you pick up your chairs and clean underneath there? I built in stadium seating for my chairs, so that way they were always nice and straight, because when I had them just on the floor, people were always pushing them forward and backwards. I was having to straighten them out. Is there dust bunnies in places? Do you use high quality toilet paper? Or are you using the cheapest thing you can get from Sam's?
If a customer, this is a little bit of a topic shift, but how to leverage this is if you do have a customer with a kind of sticker shock because they previously were a member of somewhere else and they love everything about your place. It's clearly better, right? And that's one reason they're here, because the other place they weren't happy with. So everything is set up, but now you're like twice as much, because that can happen in this industry. You could be twice as much. So how do you leverage all of this, or how do you go about that? You leveraging what you have, or overcoming that to see if we can pick up this person that's sticker shocked because they thought martial arts training was $99 a month or 75, or I've heard some doozies. So
it can depend on my mood a little bit that day, how smart ass I'm going to be. If I'm a complete smart ass, I'm going to say, so why aren't you there anymore? Oh, they closed it down. Oh, interesting. But a lot of times I'm going to, as I'm introducing my instructors, and I'm going to say, hey, these instructors I'm introducing you to, all these guys, except for the high school, college kids, work here full time. This is their chosen career. This isn't someone that's going working 9 to 5 somewhere else, then coming in working at night, who's tired, who's had a rough day, who's burnt out. These guys are professionals. I take them around the country to train. Um, this place is professionally cleaned every single day. We're actually going to care about you. If you don't show up for class, we're going to call you, we're going to text you, we're going to email you. We're going to be a partner with you for whatever your goals are in life. I remember in the coaching group that we were with, I loved in their intake questionnaire, they talk about what have you done in the past, what are you doing in the present, what's your goals in the future to reach these goals that you want to do. And really start questioning why they didn't get what they wanted. My school did turn into a little bit of a bragging rights of it was an income status to be able to say that your kids took karate with us. And I did appreciate that. And it is okay if some people can't afford it, but when the place looks pricey, you get a lot less people complain about it. People don't negotiate on the cost of Lexuses as much as they do Hyundais. They sometimes want to feel like they've won something, and getting specific on it. Well, is the issue the down payment, or is it the monthly? Oh, it's a down payment? Well, what if we split that into 2 payments for you? Or you want to or you like the paid in full discount, but you can't pay for that front. Well, what if we broke that up over the next couple months for the paid in full, and I still gave you a discount? They want to feel like they've won somehow, some way, and there's a lot of ways you can do that without actually giving up a single thing. But it's getting this specific thing, and also preventing future things that's coming up with. So if there's something we can do about the initial investment, is that the only thing that's going to prevent you from signing up today? Getting them to actually confirm, versus if you don't do that, then they're going to continue to just come up with objections. If someone can't afford it, there's only so much you can do to get them there. But what I found is most people can afford almost anything. Signs of the students about to quit, their parents just bought a new car. I can't tell you how often I've seen a parent buy a new car that was $40,000, and then they come in and they're like, we can't afford karate. Oh, really? How do you like that new vehicle you got?
Yeah, it's a priority thing.
Put yourself up, up to that frame of mind. Even with cancellations, my wife was amazing at this, and I didn't even think that it would work when she told me she was going to do it. But when someone would try and cancel, and would say, well, hey, you have 4 months left on your agreement, it's unfair of our students for us to just cancel it. How about we meet you halfway? We'll cover 2 months, you cover 2 months. I was shocked at how many people would go ahead and buy out half their contract that day, because once again, they felt like they got to win somehow. They weren't just doing it. And I mean, we brought in, some months, several $1,000s reaching out to people who were paying, but weren't coming and giving the option to get out, but to just pay part of it. Most people want to keep their word. We were also in different parts of the country are very different, but we did a 5-class trial. First class was free. We sold you on the 5-class trial before we sold you on our full membership, just because it took away every possible objection there was. And in South Carolina, people are slow to make decisions. But when somebody's had 5 classes to come in, and we'd offer a price drop of savings if they enroll by the 3rd class, it took away I need to talk to my husband. I'm not sure if my kid's going to like it. I'd call them on their shit with that of, well, I'm not sure if my kid's going to like this. Really? How long did you have your car before you decided? You did not spend, an hour and a half driving that car before you bought it. Once you come in for a couple of times, it's a very easy, hey, your kids enjoyed this. You see that they're coming in, they're excited. We relate well with your kids. That's going to fix a lot of the issues, versus for us, we struggled a lot more on the 1st class enrollment procedures with people coming back and saying, oh, well, I didn't know this, and that type of stuff. So for us, we designed less headaches.
And the 5 classes, so you sell the 5 classes a package?
Yeah, 5 classes for $50. We didn't even include uniform or t-shirt or anything. It was literally just just enough to make them put some money down to avoid tire kickers from coming in. And then
And they still
but
get the
then,
first one free though. So then they get four
yeah,
more for 50 basically.
exactly, yeah. And then, hey, if you sign up by your third class, we'll knock $100 off your enrollment. So it gave, made that wasn't too long. So, at the end of the day, it's a week and a half, generally from when they first came in, we get them signed up. It kept it simple. It took away pretty much any objection of, hey, if you weren't willing to risk $50 on this, then we know we're not going to go sign you up for $200 a month. But once someone's made that first payment, they're much more likely. It's a much easier sale once they've paid some sort of money. For us, we would try to, we had the initial investment and the monthly payment. Our goal was to actually get both of those in the same month, which really helped out our numbers to get the down payment, and then 2 weeks later get that first monthly payment would actually, increase our monthly numbers by about $1,000 a month most months. But yeah, we kept it simple. We didn't try and be very high pressure. I had one mom sending me this long email about how we high pressured her with all these things, and I literally messaged her back with, "You came in on this date for your first class. You signed up 2 weeks later. How do we high pressure you?" "Oh, we pressured you over the upgrade. Well, we had the upgrade conference with you on this date. You came back to us 4 months later and you asked about it. And here's screenshots of the messages for these things." And then all of a sudden, every mean thing that they were trying to say about us went away when I could show them the receipts of, hey, we didn't do all these things you were trying to tell us that we did. We gave you plenty of opportunity. You're the one that made these decisions. And it got pretty entertaining after a while too.
Yeah. How many times do you have that? Just mainly one, or you've had it just a handful?
I've had like maybe 5 complete crazies over the years. But the great thing, for us, we did almost everything via text with our students. So literally I could pull up old text messages and be like, "You said this, here's a screenshot that says completely other." COVID definitely brought out some of the crazies, and I'm a big believer, call people on their shit. You told me this was a problem. I gave you a solution to the problem. You just made up another problem. I gave you a solution to that. You just made up another problem. I would just call people out on it. Then they would try to if they tried to reverse their credit card charges, that type of stuff. Having the check-in capability on software, I'd go through their personal Facebook page and screenshot pictures of them at the school. I'd pull up, our video camera system. I'd pull up, I'd put screenshots of days that their kids were in class. I'd send that all to the credit card companies. I won every single time on the chargeback because I could show that, no, this person, it actually did come.
With the contract, do you have to even show that they did come to win?
It really helps.
Yeah.
Technically, you should still be able to, but when they signed this would usually happen. They were with us for a few months, and then something happened that they got upset about, and then they try and break it. It would usually be right after the upgrade conference when they realized that they weren't willing to commit to the bigger program. Then all of a sudden, the next week, they would come up with something that was the worst thing that's ever happened in the business, and then demand their money back. We tell them no, and then they do the reversal through the credit card. But as soon as I'd see those things happening, yeah, I'd go through their Facebook pages, I'd get copies of all the stuff and be like, because they try and, when you dispute it, there's different codes for it, and they would try and say that that they never used it. And when I have pictures of their kids in class and Facebook posts of them, getting their new belt and that kind of stuff, it's very hard for the contract company to agree with them.
So there can be a lot of money in upgrades. I'm familiar with you're in Maya. I'm familiar with the Maya system and different things like that. I've never been a part of it, but I've had different guests talk about it. But if you have a lot of people quit after the upgrade conference, how can you be sure it actually is profitable enough?
Yeah, I mean, well, once again, this was like 5 times in 17 years.
So it's not common. So something happening right after the upgrade conference for you isn't like something that happens very frequently at all.
No, it was always, and it was almost always a certain personality type that became that way too. and it was usually someone who was a raving fan customer, but basically they didn't want to tell their kids that they couldn't afford to go to the higher level program, but they didn't want to tell their kids that, so they want to make it our fault.
Yeah.
But when you look at the numbers, as I said earlier, the average student stays 7 to 9 months nationwide. When somebody goes into the upgrade program, so they're on the business model wise, you want to catch someone you in the first few months. We like the 2 to 6 month range for the upgrade to basically have them recommit a few months after coming into a higher level program. But the more money that someone spent on something, the more connected they are. I remember early on having a parent say, hey, we could only afford one activity for our kids, and we put more money into gymnastics, so we're going to stay with that.
Yeah.
Same reason we do when you do a holiday sale. Whenever there is a time that they're off and we completely closed the last 2 weeks of the year, there's a higher percentage of people wanting to quit when they try and get back into those routines. But if the parents just bought them, $400 worth of new stuff, a new Wave Master, new uniforms and stuff at the holiday sale, when the kid says, I don't want to go to karate, no, get your butt in the car. A lot of people who, if they pay, the big thing on the upgrades is the paid in fulls. It changes the conversation with the parent when a kid doesn't want to go. I tell parents all the time, if your child says, I don't want to go to school today, is that a discussion? No, it's get your butt in the car, let's go. It's the same thing. If somebody has paid in full, or if they've just recently signed up or upgraded or got a lot of gear or anything, when the kid says, I don't want to go to karate school today, well, tough, get in the car. If you don't make it an option, they're going to do it.
Of course they are. That's how they eat their vegetables and how they exist in general. Is they didn't have a choice. So but I do get the feelings like, hey, I want them to love what they're doing and stuff like that. So they got to reconcile the two. So on that topic, could be one of our last little topics, but like, as far as, are you able to save any decent percentages of cancellations with a talk like that about commitment, about not letting their kid quit, that sort of stuff? Did you guys do well with like saving that with exit interviews? Is there strategies for that?
So that usually was based on how good of a relationship we had with the family, was usually the biggest probably thing I could attribute to those that we were able to save. Families, if we hadn't really gotten a chance to know them, it was very hard to save it. But a lot of times, when we were able to, so when a parent calls up and we were lucky and we would pre-frame them with this, if their child doesn't want to go, we'd tell them to call the school immediately, and then I would then the instructor or myself I'd say, okay, well, put little Johnny on the phone. Well, Johnny, look, I understand you don't want to come in. Hey, let's, this is a really big deal. I need you to come in. Let's talk about this right now. Because what if, it's usually, it's not that they don't want to come to karate, jiu-jitsu, whatever. It's they don't want to stop what they're doing right now. When they come in and they're having a great time, if I can get them to still come in a couple of times, it was usually pretty decent. Or I would tell the parent, hey, I'll make you a deal. If you guys come through the next belt test and your child does the belt test and still wants to quit, if you quit that day, I'll let you out of it. They would almost never quit at that point in time, because they've come back in and we've gotten through whatever little hump that they were going through. We'd usually offer them 2 or 3 private lessons during that time frame as well. I just make sure that, during that time we're spotlighting the child more. We're, make sure that they're having an absolutely great time. And once we've gotten past whatever little hump they've gone through, they're just fine.
Those are great. I loved both of those. Hey, let's talk about it right now with the kid, and the can you make it through the next belt test? So as you might be familiar, BJJ, some of them don't even have belt testing. So would you have a recommendation? Is like, if not that, is there some sort of other strategy you would think of?
So yeah, whether it be, can you make it through the next, I want you to be in this next tournament. If you can get through this tournament, you could do it that way, through a seminar, or, even if it's just, given a certain period of time of, hey, if you can just keep coming for 2 more months, give us the opportunity to see if we can overcome this. Because it's usually something short term and gives us enough time um, to just chat with a kid. Also, a lot of times I'd say you could do something like if you do any kind of movie night or event, say, hey, I want you to bring them to a movie night on Friday as my guest. It's on me. And during that time, just spend some time with them, chat with them, have some fun with them. Just rebuild whatever type of bond you have with them. I'm a huge proponent of having a lot of belt tests and having goals. I was telling you before we started this that I've been doing jujitsu, and I know jujitsu is very slow on that. And I've had some very fun discussions with my coach on trying to convince him that hey, there's a lot of positives, especially with kids, of using these goal setting type things. So in your school, if you don't have belt testing, think about what are some marks you could have. Some sort of special event, some sort of tournament, some sort of special stripe they can earn. Basically points of highlights for students, or whether it be the tournament, special seminar, or something, just something fun that they can do that they can come and celebrate.
Yeah, I think that's good. There's always going to be something that you could put there, some milestone, something, even if it's not like a rank. So yeah, that seems good. This has been a super amazing podcast. This has been one of the most diverse. This is some It's so different than the other ones. I like it because we did so much on financial, not just the school sort of thing, that a lot of people could benefit from. That it's a little bit. Most people are thinking just about, okay, well, how can I get some more students? And that's good and all, but I think this takes people's mindset beyond that because there are other things, there are other pieces. So, do you have any closing tips, thoughts, remarks for school owners?
My biggest thing would be come up with a long-term goal, whether it be when you have mission statements for your school, make sure your decisions making process goes through your mission statement. Think about where do I want to be in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and make sure that every decision you make is helping you get towards that goal and know where you want to be. If you can get a mentor, if you can find someone who's done what you want to do, it's pretty much always going to be worth it if you're willing to act and make things happen. But yeah, just spend some time on that future planning. Same thing that when you're getting a student involved in the classes, you try to instill that mindset of hey, let's plan for the tournament, let's plan for your getting your black belt, let's plan for whatever. Do that with yourself. Use that same goal setting process we do with our students. Have someone take you through that process, figure out where you want to be, and start making that plan on how to get there.
Excellent. It has been so great having you on, Michael. If someone wants to follow you, reach you, see some more information, you're retired, but is there any sort of social media or anything they should check out?
Yeah, so on Facebook, you can look me up, Michael Bank. That's the main one I use. I am on Instagram, but I'm pretty rarely check that. But yeah, I'm always happy to help people out. I probably get calls from 2 or 3 school owners pretty much every day that I'm trying to help out with certain things because I am still connected to the industry. I still show up randomly at industry events just because it's been my life, it's been my passion. So I'm always going to be around. But yeah, if there's questions or anything, I'm happy to help.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right, wonderful to catch up with you, Brian.
It's been great talking to you again. Bye.